Change is terrifying. It's a universal constant that can rewrite the course of history with the slightest change of the wind. It's one of the few things that can't be harnessed by humans, only speculated upon. Change is almost paradoxical in nature. It is simultaneously predictable and unpredictable at the exact same time. Like philosopher David Hume once said, that the sun will not rise tomorrow is no less intelligible a proposition and implies no more contradiction than the affirmation that it will rise. We have no real clue if there will even be a tomorrow. Everything could just change on a dime, which is terrifying to think about, but in a weird way, it's also absolutely beautiful. Change can allow some of the worst people to start acting for the better good. The existence of change allows for growth, but even more importantly, the existence of change allows for freedom, and since it can't be harnessed, it means that anything is theoretically possible, which is great. Like I said, change is paradoxical in nature. Many stories have used change as a thematic device to varying degrees. The ancient Greeks used fate as a way to explain away change, and in more recent media, it's used simultaneously with growth. My favorite example of this would be Disney's Amphibia. Hey, I'm Denoyle, and I love Disney's Froggy Sky. It is a story that I didn't expect to grow on me as much as it did, but just like Anne, I fell in love with this world and its characters that inhabit it. And that reason's probably because of the show's themes of growth and second chances. I'm a sucker for those for various reasons, but that's not important right now, or ever. Either way, these themes are built into the very DNA of Amphibia, both the land and show. Everything from the old school town of Wartwood's motto, slow to accept and even slower to respect, and down to the king of Amphibia, King Andrias' plan of reviving the glory days of the kingdom. So let's open a magical music box and transport ourselves into a world of bugs, frogs, newts, and toads. It's probably gonna be a bumpy road. Also, spoilers, I guess? Before we start discussing the girls' individual arcs, let's real quick look at the inciting incident that sent the girls to Amphibia. One day before Anne's birthday, the three girls hack into the school's PA system to throw a dance party. They are immediately caught by the principal and yelled at. Marcy and Sasha get off almost scot-free, being told that their respective brains and leadership skills should be put to better use rather than for school pranks. But Anne gets told that she needs to figure out what she wants to do with her life. That she's just going through the motions, following whatever anyone tells her. The principal tells her to write an essay on who she wants to be. The next day, Anne goes to school and is bullied by a girl for bringing traditional Thai food from home with her to school. But Sasha defends her by threatening that she won't allow the girl to go to her house party. Later that day, they're dissecting frogs when Sasha fakes being sick to get them out of class. Anne tries to bring her to the nurse's office, but Sasha just convinces Anne to skip classes for her birthday. While Sasha and Anne are out doing whatever delinquents do, Marcy's studying for the SATs. While studying for the test, she accidentally discovers a book with a weird music box in it that is said to allow people to travel between multiverses. She takes a picture of it as some weird novelty, and she gets a message from her dad that they need to talk, and runs home before meeting up with Sasha and Anne. While home, Marcy's told that they have to move for her dad's job, and she runs out of the house crying, calling him selfish for not thinking of her feelings. While walking around the town, still sorting out what to do, Marcy comes across a thrift shop selling the music box she'd saw earlier that day. She then calls Sasha and Anne over to her location in hopes that just maybe it'll send them to another world, where she'll never have to leave her friends and move away. She doesn't really think it's actually gonna work, but she's willing to take the chance. Meanwhile, Sasha and Anne are still hanging out when Sasha gets a message from Marcy to come meet her at the thrift store, that she found a great gift for Anne. Anne's reluctant to go because her family is holding a party for her 13th birthday, and she's already late, but Sasha bullies Anne into checking it out real quick. When the girls meet up with Marcy, they make Anne go in and steal the music box while the cashier is distracted. When she nabs it, they open it up, and the three girls are scattered to the ends of Amphibia. Anne ending up in a small backwoods frog village called Wartwood, where she is taken in by country bumpkin farmer frogs. Sasha appears in front of a military toad base called Toad Towers, where she is immediately taken prisoner, and Marcy appears in the middle of the kingdom's capital, Newtopia, where she fell down a flight of stairs and ends up being taken in by the king. From here, the three girls are forced to go about exploring Amphibia without the others' influence, allowing for the three of them to slowly grow and change into better people. Now with the preamble out of the way, let's talk about Marcy Wu. The girl's so scared of being alone again and leaving her friends that she'd take a chance on a magic box. Chapter 1. Love is an incredible thing, Joe. Its threads allow us to drift apart, but when the time is right, they bring us back together again. Marcy is a clumsy and nerdy girl. She loves things like Lord of the Rings at home and creatures in caverns. She's insanely smart, but also insanely lonely. She's used to being looked down upon, not taken seriously and laughed at. Her only friends are Sasha and Anne, but even then they tend not to care about her interests, and Anne even theorizes that they might have been neglecting Marcy's needs as well. This being backed by Marcy saying that she was never really able to be herself around the two of them. Despite this, Marcy believes the girls to be the most important things to her. She's willing to risk it all to stay with them because she's worried that if she doesn't, if she moves away, they won't continue to be her friends, and that terrifies her because she's not sure if she'll be able to make new friends at her new school because her interests are so weird. And just like the monkey's paw, her attempt to escape her current reality ridded her of the things she was swearing to keep, forcing her to confront a world without Sasha or Anne. While in Amphibia, Marcy is forced to confront a world without her friends, and she ends up obsessing over keeping them together at all costs. She admits to the king that she's worried her friends will never forgive her for getting them trapped in Amphibia. He reinforces her belief, telling her never to tell them what happened because they'll never understand what she's doing. She's so obsessed with finding Sasha and Anne that she doesn't even acknowledge the fact that she was very easily able to befriend the night guards. Eventually though, she meets up with Anne, and while bonding, she learns of the incident that happened between Anne and Sasha, and Marcy vows to make sure her friendship doesn't break apart, saying, "Our friendship is the most important thing, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it back to normal." Marcy takes Anne to meet with the king, and they are told that to return home, they would need to power up the music box, which required the king to locate the temples to do that, and the planters return home to get the box. Marcy tells Anne that she doesn't need to go with them, because it's easier if she stays in Utopia to help out, but Anne is really depressed about leaving the planters, so Marcy begrudgingly tells Anne that they could just pick her up when everything's ready. And when Anne says yes, Marcy starts to freak out about it in her journal. She starts spiraling, worrying once again that Anne's gonna leave her and that she's gonna be left alone, worrying that Anne cares about the planters more than her, and she's arguing with herself about this because deep down she knows it's not true, but she can't help believing it, believing that just maybe she's losing her friends and that she's gonna be alone again. After she calms down with Andreas, she says that she got a little panicky because between Anne choosing the planters over her and Sasha fighting, it made Marcy believe that everything was falling apart. The king calms her down and tells her that once they charge the stones, they can hold off returning to Earth, and instead, he can teach her how to explore the many worlds and never let her adventure end, even if her friends don't want to. At the end of the page, Marcy states that it's weird to have another secret to keep from the girls, but I'm doing it for us, our friendship. Her mental state is slowly becoming dangerous in her measures to keep the three of them together. This becomes even more apparent the day before they're to bring the box to the king fully charged. The three girls are staying in Wartwood and the town holds a battle of the bands. At some point, Marcy says in her journal, "I'm sorry mom and dad, but I'm not coming back for a while. Move our home to wherever you want. I've made myself a better one, with the people who really get me and actually care about me. You won't tear us apart. The three of us belong together forever." At this point, she truly believes what she did was right, without a shadow of a doubt. Upon seeing Anne and Sasha grow so much and her friendship with them reinforced better than ever, she believes that it was the correct choice, and if they can just keep having these adventures, their friendship would only get better, and she wouldn't have to deal with the pesky reality business. She stopped thinking about if this is what her friends want. She just assumes it is. When they get back to Utopia, the king ends up revealing after some shenanigans that the kingdom used to previously hop from universe to universe, conquering them before they lost the box. After this is revealed, the king gets his army to kill the girls and their allies, because no witnesses and all that, you know how it is. When Marcy yells at the king that she thought they had a deal, he tells her that he would have told her anything to get the box. This is when Marcy is finally forced to reveal the fact that she got them stuck in Amphibia on purpose. In one of the most heartbreaking scenes where, instead of apologizing, she doubles down. She knows that she can't explain away what she did, that what she did was terrible, and she's terrified that her friends are gonna hate her, and that the one thing that she's been so desperately trying to protect is going to get ruined due to her own actions. So she doubles down and hopes it'll work. I can't do this scene justice, so just watch.
The day we left your birthday, they told me my dad got a new job out of state. They're making me move away. They were going to tear us apart. Mercy, I found the box. I had no idea that it would actually work, but it did. And I sent us to a place where we'd never have to go apart, where the three of us could be friends forever together. How could you? I've been missing my parents, my wife. Look at how much fun we've had. Look at how much you've both grown. Look at Sprig. I gave you this. I gave you everything. didn't want to be alone.
Marcy is then framed alone, the one thing she's been fearing this whole time, finally realizing the gravity of the situation she's in. None of the girls are given much time to process what happened as they're forced to try to take down the evil king. Near the end of the fight, Marcy steals the music box, attempting to send the three of them home while also ridding Andreas of his power. In the process of calibrating the box, she manages to get Anne and her adopted frog family into the portal before she is... well, given the reason, there is now a disclaimer on every subsequent airing of this episode.
Now look what you've made me do.
Marcy was so desperate to keep her friendship together that she didn't stop to think what they wanted, but that's not where her story ends. After both being literally and figuratively stabbed in the back, she's taken into a pod by Andreas to both heal her wounds and allow the core to take over her mind. The core is a collection of Amphibia's greatest minds assimilated into one giant hive mind. It ends up using Marcy as a host, calling itself Darcy, locking Marcy's conscious into a small part of the core, where they suppress her memories of her death and distract her with puzzles to make sure she won't be able to interfere. After completing about 300 puzzles, she finally starts to question where she is and makes her way into the core's inner sanctum, where she is greeted by King Andreas' dad, King Aldrich. He takes her to the fancy world of her dreams, exclaiming that the core makes dreams come true. After exploring for a bit, she starts to miss her friends, so the core creates replicas of them that are just walking yes men. Marcy almost immediately figured out that they aren't her real friends and just watch.
This isn't real, is it? The real Anne and Sasha don't want what I want, and it hurts. But forcing them to follow my dreams is wrong. I've learned that the hard way.
This is where I should probably touch on a second aspect of Marcy's personality. That is her use of escapism to run away from anything that is scary. Escapism is defined as the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. If that doesn't describe Marcy's actions for getting the girls trapped in Amphibia, I don't know what does. Marcy used Amphibia as a way to escape her problems, just another game for her to get engrossed in so she can forget everything else. When Andrea shows her a way to go home, she doesn't want it. She'd rather stay in Amphibia where she has less responsibility. Not much is known about Marcy's past, but she does have an extreme tendency to hyperfixate on whatever it is she's doing, blocking literally everything else out. This has caused her to almost get hit by a volleyball in the middle of a match, almost run into a locker door, slip on a wet floor, walk in the trash can, leave her bag wide open, forget she's pouring ice cream, walk into a snake-infested zoo on top of probably hundreds of other instances we don't see. All of this to say, she tends to focus on whatever furthers her own goals. Like when she was so engrossed in solving the puzzles in the Mind Temple that she almost killed Anne and the planters, because she only saw them as pieces on a board. Even after she dies, she ends up diving deeper into her escapism, rather forcibly, but still, she did get through like 300 puzzles before realizing that something was up. The core quite literally trapped Marcy in her own mind to solve puzzles and go on adventures with the friends she thought she wanted. But after living in Amphibia away from her friends, and even more seeing just how much her friends grew in Amphibia when they allowed themselves to change, Marcy realizes that living in a manufactured world is cowardly. She rejects the core, the embodiment of people so scared of death they gave their consciousness up to defeat it. She tells it that she refuses to run away from the reality that's waiting for her. Marcy almost broke her friendship because she was so desperate to run away from the situation she was in that she dragged her other friends down with her. Marcy had stated when she first came to Notopia that it was seemingly frozen in time, which is a good description of Marcy's character. A girl frozen in the ideas of the past, a girl desperate to preserve her friendship's original dynamic, because if not, they might break up, and if that happens, she might be alone again. She's terrified that the only two people who even halfway tolerate her would stop talking to her if she moved away, so much so that she tried to create a paradise where that would never happen. But this paradise ended up putting the last nail in the coffin instead. But through the course of the show, she ends up learning that she'll be okay without Anne or Sasha. That's okay not to have the same interests as her friends, that no matter what, they will always be friends, even if they aren't in the same place. Upon the return from Amphibia, the girls give Marcy a big hug when they learn that she'll need to leave real soon. And Marcy, well, says what I've been saying this entire time. This whole adventure has taught me that I can't spend my life running from change. No matter how scary it seems, and if it ever seems like I'm alone, I'm not. Marcy ends up seeing a therapist and spends much of her time left in LA hanging out with Sasha and Anne. Marcy hosts the CNC game, Creatures in Caverns, with them, and For once, Sasha and Anne sit through the entire session. The two girls offer to keep the campaign going, but Marcy knows they aren't having as much fun as she is, so she calls it a one-off. She'd rather do what the group loves to do than force her friends to go through what she wants. As Marcy is about to board her flight, Sasha and Anne meet up with her at the drop-off, and they engage in one last hug, and they promise to text and call each other whenever they can, and she writes this: "We promise to text and call whenever we can, but I also know not to make the same mistake and use them as a crutch to avoid facing life in a new town. I have to make sure to keep moving forward and bring the past with me, not use it to hide away just because it feels safe and comfortable. Balance, it's something I've been working on. For Marcy, you can learn to let go, to embrace change, not run from it. That you can't use the past as a crutch, but as a guide for the future. That you and your friends don't always have to have the same interests. Just as long as you guys have loads of fun together, that's all that matters. Also, to not trap your friends into a world of frogs without consent, but that one's a little bit less likely to come in handy. Except me, you can trap me in a world of frogs. I'd be so happy." Now that's one girl away and only 2 more to go, and we're already at how long? Alrighty. While Marcy's story was one of running away from change, Sasha's story is one of not letting your past define your future. Chapter 2.
I am not that person anymore.
Sasha's arc is one steeped in self-hatred. She's a complicated character teetering between good and bad, right and wrong. She strives to protect those she loves, while at the same time, she's absolutely controlling towards her friends. She's actively manipulates people to get what she wants, while at the exact same time, a genuine inspiration to others. She's an absolute unit on the battlefield and an expert tactician. Her arc is her finding the balance between those two almost hypocritical sides of her. Much like Marcy, we know very little about Sasha's past. All that's known is that at some point when she was younger, her parents got divorced, leaving her almost lost at sea between the two families, which would explain why she's so controlling of those she keeps close to her. But other than that, Sasha is very private about her home life. Upon arrival in Amphibia, she is immediately taken prisoner by the Toads, where she ends up manipulating her way to second in command. Her main goal is to find Anne and Marcy and to get the two of them home no matter what. She strikes a deal with the captain that if she squashes the Frog Rebellion, that he'd help her get home. To squash the rebellion, Sasha thinks of a great idea to lure all of the frogs into a false sense of security by claiming they're throwing a party for them, using finding Anne as a pretense. When she reveals all this to Anne, Anne freaks out and goes to warn the frogs. They try to escape and are immediately captured. Sasha tries to use her charisma to reason with Anne, telling her that they're just frogs, that they don't belong there. And when Anne is hesitant about it, she switches to force, yells at her to put her weapon down, to which Anne does, but Sprig defends her, attacking Sasha. Sasha then proceeds to try to kill Sprig and Anne protects him. But that's a story for another day. After that, Sasha and Anne get into a heated sword duel that ends in Sasha getting cut and losing. After the battle, the castle starts collapsing and Sasha starts to fall off the building when Anne catches her. But upon realizing that if Anne continues to try and help her up, it would cause both of them to die, she decides to let go, telling Anne,
Hey, Anne. Maybe you're better off without me.
as she falls to her death. That is, until Captain Grime catches her out of midair. I truly believe that Sasha never really realized that she was manipulating or controlling Anne. This isn't to justify her actions or excuse them. They're still horrible, horrible actions that need to be taken account for. Sasha was just doing what she believed was right for both of them, even if it hurt Anne. But after the battle with Anne, she fully realized just how much harm she's caused Anne and decides to make up for it by prioritizing Anne's life over hers. From here, Sasha's personality becomes conflicted, almost split. She doesn't want to change who she is because she likes herself, but she also acknowledges that her actions caused her to lose a friend. Being unable to really cope with this, she dedicates herself to training, hoping to use it as a distraction from the truth, that her friendship with Anne will never be the same, but she's also training super hard so that she can protect the only person she can count on, afraid that she'll lose Grime too. Between losing both of her parents to their own new families, and now Anne, Sasha is left with nothing to anchor her back to shore except Grime, so she swears to protect him no matter the cost. This inspires Grime to finally stop being some lazy bum, and the two of them stop a Newtonian general after Grime's head, and vow to take over Amphibia. Sasha and Grime call a meeting with the other generals of the Toad Towers to discuss their plan. The generals love the idea, but refuse to let Grime and Sasha lead it. Sasha also learns that Anne and Marcy are working together without her, which pisses her off. So much so that she demands that they give her a test to prove that they can lead an army, to which the council tells her to obtain the legendary hammer that is said that whoever wields it rules the Toads, and she tells them that they'll have it by the morning. While they're on the way to find the hammer, Percy and Bardock are terrified of going on their mission, and Sasha, careful not to repeat what happened with Anne, tells them that if they tell her things are getting wild, she'll call the entire mission off. This calms them. They find the hammer stuck in the head of a giant narwhal worm. Grime is ready for a fight, but Percy and Bardock are terrified, and just like last time, Sasha's far too invested in her own goals and what she thinks best for everyone that she ignores the wants of those around her. She tells them they are far too close to bail and refuses to leave empty-handed. She forces them to board the animal, and Sasha starts guiding it towards the tower. Percy begs Sasha to stop, but she refuses. Upon realizing that the creature is going to crash into the tower, and having lost control over it, she goes back to trying to get the hammer out. They can't get it out, and Grime tells her that they have to get off the creature or they'll all die. But Sasha refuses, stating that she can do it. She cannot fail while Marcy and Anne get by without her. And between the adrenaline and the power of the stones, she frees the hammer and knocks the narwhal worm out, gaining the support of the Toads. While celebrating, a beat-up Percy and Bardock walk off the narwhal worm, and Sasha asks if they're okay, and they tell her that they almost died back there. But she didn't care as long as she got what she wanted, even though they trusted her, and the two Toads leave to live a better life. Sasha goes to chase them to convince them otherwise, but Grime stops her, telling her that they finally hit their limit and that every dream has a price to pay, but not everyone is willing to pay it. And once again, Sasha has pushed away the people she cared about because she only cared about her goal. Not if anyone else was okay, as long as it went according to her plan. The next time Sasha appears is in the third temple, where Sasha saves the girls from a tiny narwhal worms. She promises that she's not there to fight, but Anne's skeptical. She tells Anne that the incident at Toad Tower was her fault. Eventually, they get to the final room, where the two girls are forced to fight alongside each other. Sasha asks Anne why she still doesn't trust her, and Anne tells her that it wasn't just Toad Tower, that Sasha's been pushing her around her entire life, and Sasha tells her that she knows. Then the creature increases the gravitational pull to the point where the two girls can't get up. Anne tells Sasha that she believes in her, and Sasha can't believe that Anne would trust her after all that's happened, and Anne tells her that she wasn't just a jerk, she was also an inspiration, and that she never gave up. And Sasha realizes that Anne doesn't fully hate her, which gives her the strength she needs to defeat the creature. After leaving the temple, Anne asks Sasha to start over, and she agrees. But right as Anne leaves, Grime asks if she's forgotten the plan to use the girls to get into Utopia safely, and Sasha tells him that she hasn't forgotten, and that she believes the girls fell for her act, but she then looks almost saddened after Grime leaves. It's obvious that not all of that was an act, and Sasha truly does want to start over with Anne, but is conflicted by it. Sasha and Grime are forced to stay the night in Wartwood before meeting with the king. While there, the frogs host a battle of the bands, and the three girls team up. Sasha wants to play her song, but Anne has a song she wrote while in Amphibia and prefers to play that one. Marcy thinks it's a great idea, but asks for Sasha's permission first, and after playing through the song once, Anne asks what Sasha thinks. Sasha starts changing everything to how she wants it, without even realizing that's what she's doing. Upon Anne bringing it up, Sasha realizes that she was unintentionally being controlling and opts to form a different band. It says that if she leaves, she can have the control she wants without interfering with her friend's fun. She ends up teaming with Toady, who's lost his backbone a long time ago at this point, and is just a walking yes man, to which Sasha can't comprehend living like that. She tells them that she has to have an opinion about literally everything, and that if she's not in control, she'll go crazy. But Toady tells her to let someone else take the reins for once, because most people don't realize how fun it can be just to support someone you care about. Later, during the concert, Sasha laments that Marcy and Anne's show could have been so much better with her in control, that she just wanted them to succeed. And Toady tells her that no matter how badly you want someone to succeed, you can't force it. And that sometimes being a good friend means being there for someone when they need it the most. And in the middle of Anne and Marcy's performance, Sasha swallows her pride and comes out to play the guitar solo. The next day, they head out to Utopia. Once they get there, Marcy goes to hand off the music box to the king, when Grime steals it and Sasha tells Anne that she's just doing what she does best, taking control. They arrest the king and the Toads invade the capital. Sasha offers to send the other two girls home, but also asks if they'd rather lend her a helping hand to rule the world. Anne yells at Sasha that she won't let her bully everyone around anymore, and when Sasha was about to explain herself, Anne tells her that she's a horrible person. She is done trusting her and being friends with her. Sasha doesn't take it very well and tells Anne that if that's the case, she'll just send her home where she can never see the planters again. When Sasha goes to send her home, the box doesn't work, so she instead sends her to the dungeon. Sasha sits on the throne thinking about what Anne said, confused over what to make of it, and if it's true, and what she really wants. In this moment, Sasha isn't sure what to do. On one hand, she doesn't like hurting her friends, but on the other hand, it's all she's known how to do, so instead of trying to change, she doubles down, assuming that if she's incapable of change, then she'll just accept her role as a control freak. This is apparent when she says things like, "I'm doing what I do best." Sasha truly believes that taking over the castle isn't wrong, that it's just in her nature. Repeatedly, she pushed those around her away, and you could argue that her controlling nature was also a way of keeping everyone at arm's length, so that they couldn't leave her lost like her parents did. But this is all speculation, and I need to look into a lot more psychology books before I dissect Sasha. Either way, as she's sitting atop her throne alone, Grime offers to her to help him redecorate the castle to take her mind off everything, and she agrees. While redecorating, she discovers the king's true motive and what the music box is really for. She goes to stop Anne from helping the king, but after all the backstabbing and lying, Anne refuses to hear any of it, assuming that it's just some trick again. Sasha is forced to rely on force again, but loses to Anne, allowing Andreas to get the box, and well, you know the rest. Before I move on to the second half of Sasha's arc, I'd like to highlight the song that Sasha wanted to sing for the Battle of the Bands, which can shed a lot of light into how Sasha feels about herself, even before Amphibia. For various amounts of copyright reasons, I cannot play the song, but I will read out the notable lines. "You can call it toucan and throat, I'll stop a heart like a roach, I'm just looking out for myself. I'm a heartbreaker, breaking those hearts. You can tell me that's not me, but I'm perfect for the part." These lines indicate that even when she was younger, she believed herself to be a person who only manipulates people, even when people told her otherwise. This leads me to post. After the incident, Sasha and Grime retreat to Wartwood, telling the people what happened and that Anne sent them to defend the town. Sasha still feels guilty for betraying Anne, so much so that she refuses to even enter the planter's house, opting to rather sleep in the barn, where she belongs. While figuring out what to do next, she noticed that a robot had followed them and destroyed it, but not before it sent out a signal. Grime suggests that they should just leave town, but Sasha refuses, telling Grime she's through with plans and schemes. Grimes asks her since when, and she tells him since she's seen the consequences. Grime tells Sasha that she needs to confront her feelings and enter the planter house. When she does, she finds and reads Anne's journal, and she breaks down, lamenting that she shouldn't have tried to be in control again. She vows to be someone better, someone who Anne deserves. She then admits everything to the people of Wartwood in this beautiful scene.
I lied to you about Anne sending us to protect the town. She's been zapped to another world and has no idea I'm even here. I'm no guardian. I'm a fraud. Fraud or not, though, I'm gonna do the right thing for once in my life. With my last breath, I'm gonna defend this town.
Sasha vows to protect the town with her last breath, and she finally takes on her role as a protector instead of a manipulator. They defeat the robot army and Sasha starts rebellion. Sasha's the best suited to defend those who can't defend themselves. It's something that she's lost sight of as she's grown up. Sasha builds up this rebellion as its leader until Anne arrives back on Earth. When she gets back, Sasha is terrified that she's going to relapse again and become controlling, and forces Anne to take the mantle of leader, a role which is not suited for her. Sasha refuses to take back the title, worrying that she'll just bully Anne again and lose her, until Anne forces her to, telling her that the old Sasha would have fought anyone who dared become leader. While Sasha and Anne are storming King Andrias' castle, Sasha is grappling with how to forgive Marcy, and Anne tells her that it's not about what she did, it's why she did it. And Sasha yells at Anne that she's just supposed to forgive Marcy, like it's easy, and Anne tells her that it's not easy, that it's hard and it takes time. Later on in the day, Sasha asks Anne if they can even beat Darcy, if it knows their every move, and Anne tells her that Darcy only knows the old them, meaning it has no idea what they're capable of, telling her that it's not who we were that matters, it's who we are now that counts. When Sasha finally confronts Darcy to defeat it and save Marcy, it taunts Sasha, attempting to use her insecurities against her. Darcy tells Sasha that Marcy always thought she was kind of a brute, but Sasha refuses to let any of it get to her. She tells Darcy that it doesn't matter what Marcy thinks of her, she's just there to save Marcy. Near the end of the fight, Sasha is almost defeated and on the ground as Darcy starts to control the king to do their bidding, and says that Sasha would appreciate it as a fellow control freak. While Darcy is distracted, Grime kicks her sword over to Sasha, who struggles to get up as Anne's words are echoing in her head. She runs up and slashes Darcy's connection to the core, telling her
I am not that person anymore.
in a satisfying scene that encompasses her entire growth, no longer letting her past define who she is. From a young age, Sasha was given no control over her parents' divorce, or of both of them finding new families, leaving her with only Marcy and Anne. So she had to do everything in her power to make sure to never lose the two of them, even if it hurt them. She used her past trauma to justify her current actions. Over time, she gained a controlling and manipulative nature that slowly became unchecked, because neither of the other two girls had any reason to really stand up to her. While in Amphibia, she used her previous friendships with Anne as an excuse to manipulate her into letting her friends die, and when Anne fights back, she panics because she's suddenly hyper aware of just how much she's been hurting her friend. Then throughout the show, she holds onto that single moment as a place of self-loathing. She hates the manipulative side of her, but she can't stop being so, which conflicts her. It's why she tells Anne she doesn't want to change, because it's all she's ever known. She continues to let her past control her as she pushes Percy and Bardock away from her. Even though she tried to change, she still fell back into her old manipulative ways, hurting them. After that instant, she becomes confused and doubles down on her villainy, for lack of a better word, because she subconsciously thinks of herself as a monster, once again letting her past define her. It's only when she decides to move forward instead of keep looking back that she finally starts to grow. Sasha's arc is all about growing away from your past actions, even if others won't let you. The past never really stays dead, but with the help of forgiveness of Anne, Grime, and the people of Wortwood, she slowly grew past her baggage and became a powerful warrior and even stronger leader. Now with my personal favorite character out of the way, let's discuss the last of the three and the one who probably changed the most in Amphibia, Anne Boonchoi. Chapter 3.
Change can be difficult, but it's how we grow. It can be the hardest thing to realize you can't hold on to something forever. Sometimes, you have to let it go. But of the things you let go, you'd be surprised what makes its way back to you.
Anne, at the beginning of the show, is an impatient and selfish girl, just going about life as she pleases. She follows the path of least resistance, allowing her to also be heavily influenced by Sasha. When Anne gets sent to Amphibia, she is originally thought of as a monster by the local drunkard, till a young frog boy befriends her, and they fight a giant mantis together. The boy's family takes her in, and the two become best friends. This boy's name is Sprig, and Sprig does a lot for Anne, but the most important thing is showing her what real friendship is. Anne's been so used to how Sasha treats her that she just assumes it's normal friendship things. That is until Sprig challenges her idea of friendship. During the second episode, she manipulates Sprig into doing what she wants, even if he doesn't. She tells him that that's what real friendship is. Real friends help each other get whatever they want, which on the surface sounds great, but later in the episode, Anne tells Sprig that you do what your friends ask of you, or else they might not want to be your friends anymore. Anne, like the other two girls, are inherently lonely. She's worried that her friends will leave her if she doesn't do everything they ask. This is very obviously trauma from her relationship with Sasha. While initially lazy, Anne slowly becomes more and more helpful. Whether this growth was due to her having to do manual labor on the farm, or because not being responsible would definitely mean certain death, doesn't really matter. What does is that she not only properly begins being responsible, as shown when she learns how to properly take care of Bessie, or when she actually admits to breaking Hop Pop's cane, but more importantly, Anne becomes super heroic, saving the townspeople from all sorts of danger. All of this culminates in the town electing Anne Frog of the Year. During the Frog of the Year celebration, Sasha ends up making an appearance, and you kind of know how this part of the story goes already. So let's just fast forward a bit to the part where they're on top of the roof. While Anne is originally shown to be overconfident, it's shown that around Sasha, she turns into a much more meek and cowardly person, willing to do what her friend tells her to, even if it's bad. Anne tries to reason with Sasha not to kill the frogs, but She's having none of it and attempts to manipulate Anne into submitting, but Sprig won't stand by and let Anne be manipulated, so he shoots mud at Sasha and scolds her for not treating Anne right. Sprig tells her that Anne won't be pushed around by a bully like her. Sasha, finally having enough, goes to kill Sprig, but Anne defends him, that being the last line Sasha crossed. Because of Sprig, Anne was finally able to work up the courage to stand up to Sasha's manipulation. They then have a duel and Anne wins, but the tower starts exploding. As this is happening, Anne goes to rescue Sasha from falling off the roof, but Sasha lets her fall to save Anne. After Sasha falls, Sprig asks if Anne is okay, and she breaks down. When they get back to Wartwood, the planters apologize for the incident, and she tells them it's okay because they're her family too, and as long as they stick together, they'll get through anything. This incident stays with Anne for most of her time in Amphibia. Later in the show, she finds Marcy and immediately treats her like the clumsy kid she was before Amphibia, but Anne realizes that Marcy had grown a lot in Amphibia too. Marcy takes Anne to meet the king and reveals that they'll have to power up the box to get home, so Anne heads home with the planters to grab the box and await further instructions. When they got back to Wartwood, Hop Pop reveals that he'd secretly hid the music box away and lied to Anne about it. She eventually forgives him, but it left a rift between the two going into the first temple, and the rift ends up opening into a giant chasm by the last puzzle, where they are forced to fight each other. Hop Pop ends up asking Anne what it would take so that she can forgive him, and she admits that she doesn't know, that she just needs time, and Hop Pop respects that. So there's one aspect I didn't really touch on, and that's what the stones represent, mainly because they don't really mean anything personality-wise, they're just cool aesthetic things, that is, except for Anne's. Marcy's stone is intelligence, Sasha's is power, and Anne's is heart. And the test to charge it tests her selflessness, her empathy, if you will. At the end of the test, after countless hours of being scolded for various reasons, Valerian, the keeper of the stones, berates Anne on every single mistake she's made, telling her that she's unworthy. But Anne admits to it. She said that the bad choices she made were hers and she'll own them, but she also said that making them taught her that it's always better to do the right thing, and that allows her to finally pass the test. The temple not only was testing her empathy, but her ability to take responsibility for her actions. Valerian starts to charge the stones, but Anne cuts it off early to rescue her friends. She then moves to the third temple where she is rescued by Sasha. Anne is skeptical at first, but chooses to trust her, learning her lesson with Hop Pop. The next night, they're having a dinner before heading off to meet with the king, and Anne asks Sasha to acknowledge that she has changed. The biggest evidence of Anne's change is in the next episode, the Battle of the Bands. In this episode, Anne asks Sasha if they can do her song instead and calls Sasha out when she's taking over control, which is not something the old Anne would have done. The next day, they go to give the king the music box, but Sasha and Grimes steal it. Sasha tries to play buddy-buddy with Anne, but Anne explodes at her, calling her insane for thinking she would let her bully around everyone just to get what she wants. She tells Sasha that she is a horrible person and she is dumb being friends with her. Sasha has her taken to the dungeon. On the way there, Anne gets so angry at Sasha that she headbutts a guard, and General Yunan rescues them. When everyone is at their lowest, Anne gives everyone an inspirational speech, and the gang form a plan to rescue the king and squash the uprising. While Anne is attempting to close the gate, Sasha tries to stop her, telling her that she doesn't trust King Andreas, but Anne's hearing none of it, thinking it's just another trick from Sasha, and continues to close the door. Sasha tries to stop her with force, but Anne beats her a second time, allowing the king to regain control of the city and giving him the box, allowing him to start his villain arc. After Marcy reveals her secret, Anne tells Andreas that while the three of them may have made mistakes, he's pure evil, and that she's going to stop him. She releases Sasha and they get ready to fight. During the battle, Andreas gets a hold of Sprig and drops him out of the window, which causes Anne to lose it, and just watch.
No, it can't be.
Give him back. Give him
After going Super Saiyan, after using the power of the stones to get revenge for Sprig, she briefly loses consciousness. Sprig is rescued by Marcy, and while the king is distracted, Marcy opens a portal to Earth, in which the planters and Anne head through as Marcy is killed right in front of them. Anne's greatest trait is probably her care for her friends. She's willing to risk it all for them, and no time shows it better than when she thought she lost Sprig. Sprig was her best friend and taught her to love herself and to change, so when she thought she lost him, she lost it. At this point in the story, Anne has been betrayed by her two closest friends before Amphibia, which leads me to the core part of Anne's arc, which is forgiveness. Anne has seen how Amphibia caused her to change for the better, and realized that this was possible for her friends too. So even after they betrayed her, she is willing to give them second chances because she believes that everyone is capable of changing. Upon arrival on Earth, she heads home and explains almost everything to her parents. Anne immediately starts looking into ways to get back to Amphibia, spending so many sleepless nights in her pursuit. Her parents end up commenting on how much more mature she seems. She also ends up being a lot more selfless, like making sure her mom gets the parade float she's always wanted. She also starts to think of her parents more as like people than just adults trying to make her do what she doesn't want to do, you know? As stated before, Anne stayed up so many sleepless nights hoping to find some way to make it back to Amphibia. Not only to get the planters home, but also to save Sasha and Marcy. Eventually they make it back to Earth and join the rebellion. After a long time, they finally get ready to invade Andreas' base. While on the way, Sasha asks Anne what they are gonna do about Marcy and about their friendship, and Anne tells her that she doesn't know. Later on, Sasha's still talking about what they're gonna do about Marcy, and Anne tells her that it's not about what she did, it's about why she did it. Sasha retorts that she's just supposed to forgive Marcy like it's easy, and Anne tells her that forgiveness isn't easy, it takes time, but it's worth it, and tells her to look at their relationship now as proof. Later on Earth, Andreas challenges her to a single combat, and she tells the planters that after meeting them in Amphibia, she knows who she really wants to be, and goes off to fight the Mad King. Anne defeats the king as Sasha rescues Marcy. Marcy apologizes for what she did, and Anne tells her,
I know it's hard, Marcy, but no matter how much we fight it or deny it, things change. We can't stop it. But nothing, not distance or time, can break the bond that we share, because nothing can take away the memories of the time we spent together.
and if that isn't a thesis statement on what Amphibia is all about, I'm not sure what is. At the end of the day, shit changes, and you can either reject it and futile or embrace it. We still have one more important moment to get through. After defeating Andreas, the girls head back to Amphibia to say their final goodbyes, as the Core decides to ram the moon into the planet. You know, like normal evil villain stuff. And the girls have to use the power of the Chaos Emeralds, I mean the Calamity Gems. They do have really similar names. Weird. Either way, they need to use the gems to defeat the moon, a la Majora's Mask style, you know how it is. While fighting the moon in one of the coolest fight scenes, Anne has to use the power of all three stones to defeat it, sacrificing her life in the process. She then wakes up in... you know? I'm not entirely sure where she is. I guess limbo? That's what the wiki says. We're gonna go with limbo. Sure. Well, either way, she's summoned there to talk to the deity who created the three stones. They brought Anne to this place so that she can replace them. The deity has grown bored over eternity watching over the universes and reveals that Anne is the only person in 10,000 years to use the stones for good. Anne tells the deity no on their offer. She says that she's just a 13-year-old kid, and that every time she did something heroic, she also made 100 dumb mistakes. The deity begs with Anne, saying that she's perfect, but Anne tells them no one's perfect, that Amphibia taught her that everyone is changing and improving and learning as they go. She says that when she thought Sasha and Marcy would be stuck in their old ways, they proved her wrong and their friendship grew stronger. The deity takes that speech as a soft maybe, and sends Anne back to Amphibia, where she crashes her own funeral, and well, the girls go back home. Anne's arc is one of understanding self-worth and forgiveness. Through Sprig, she was able to see what she was truly worth and what real friendship looked like, which allowed her to realize that her and Sasha's relationship was toxic. And through Hop Pop, she was able to learn that forgiveness takes time and is hard, and things might not always be the same, but that's okay, and she ended up using those skills to help change Sasha and Marcy. As I'm hopefully nearing the end of this video, what is the final takeaway? What is Amphibia trying to teach us? The final takeaway is that change is really fucking hard, and scary, and terrifying, and at times seemingly impossible. But it's so worth it. It's one of the very few universal constants in life. On top of that, the takeaway is that to change, you not only need to be willing to change yourself, but change is so much easier if you have someone rooting for you the entire time, ready to give you an open hug on the other side. Anne had Sprig help her in every step of her journey towards change, encouraging her. Sasha had Grime to guide her through her emotional turmoil, almost acting like a father figure, and Marcy was able to learn from Andreas and the Cord that running away doesn't solve anything. So, what's the main takeaway? The main takeaway is don't run from change. Embrace it. It'll be better in the end. You'll lose a lot along the way. You might lose friendships, you might lose belongings, you might lose a part of yourself, but what you gain will be so much greater. So remember, change can be difficult, but it's how we grow. It can be the hardest thing to realize. You can't hold on to something forever. Sometimes you have to let it go, but of the things you let go, you'd be surprised what makes its way back to you. So, everyone, don't forget to embrace change, and I'll be signing out. See you later.